We all know that Texas, on the map at least, is a ruby red state. As I've said before, it's a voter suppressed state, and I think it would look more purplish and bluish if there wasn't the laboratory of autocracy there, of voter suppression that we've now seen across the country. But I want to talk about how this ruby red state is getting screwed over, frankly, the most by Trump and MAGA and what Doge is doing. Look, I think there's a reason why when you see Democrats go into the state and hold these events, like the recent event by Senator Elizabeth Warren, for example, in Austin, you are getting huge crowds that I think aren't getting enough attention. I mean, just pull up this crowd. I mean, it looks like a presidential election, a presidential campaign type crowd. And look, I think the people in Texas are absolutely pissed. I mean, you've got Donald Trump, for example, at the State of the Union and just in general talking about getting rid of the CHIPS Act. You know how many billions of dollars are invested into Texas by the CHIPS Act? How many hundreds of thousands of jobs have been created by the CHIPS Act and other policies by former President Biden? Well, I'll give you a hint of the answer. Even the MAGA Republican senators and Congress members in Texas, they're saying, whoa, we don't really think that Donald Trump actually meant that. I think he just misspoke. Take a look at this from the Texas Tribune. Two Texans in Congress defend the CHIPS Act in the face of Trump criticism. MAGA Republican Representative Michael McCaul and Senator John Cornyn, they're saying, I think there's some cleanup behind the scenes. I don't think he really meant it. Oh, really? You don't think he meant that he wants to get rid of the CHIPS Act? I don't know. For me, words matter, and I think for Texans, words should matter as well. Take a look at this right here. Listen to Trump's words at his joint session. Play it.
And we're not giving them any money. Your CHIPS Act is a horrible, horrible thing. We give hundreds of billions of dollars, and it doesn't mean a thing. They take our money and they don't spend it. All that meant to them, we're giving them no money. All that was important to them was they didn't want to pay the tariffs, so they came and they're building, and many other companies are coming. We don't have to give them money. We just want to protect our businesses and our people. And they will come because they won't have to pay tariffs if they build in America. So it's very amazing. You should get rid of the CHIP Act, and whatever's left over, Mr. Speaker, you should use it to reduce debt or any other reason you want to.
What does he even talk? Get rid of the CHIPS Act, use it to reduce debt. Also, it should be noted that Texas is the largest deployer of wind in America, and Texas is dependent on wind energy to balance its power delivery for the grid that Governor Abbott is unable to manage frequently. What does Donald Trump have to say about the wind? Remember this? Here, play this clip.
It's not wind that goes around and around. And darling, let's watch the president's State of the Union speech tonight. I'm sorry, we won't be able to do it. The wind isn't blowing, darling. We have no electricity. We have no electricity, darling. We won't be able to watch tonight, but perhaps sometime during the week it will be blowing and we'll be able to get our television on it.
Let's talk about what else is going on in Texas. The Trump administration deported a 10-year-old girl to Mexico who's a U.S. citizen and recovering from brain cancer in Texas. And in addition, Donald Trump's kind of spiritual advisor guru, a former pastor of a Texas megachurch, Robert Morris, turned himself into Oklahoma authorities on child sex abuse charges involving a 12-year-old girl. That's what's going on in Ruby Red, Texas. What also is going on in Ruby Red, Texas is you now have a major special election race in Texas's 18th congressional district. Democratic Congress member Sylvester Turner tragically passed away that night of the joint session. In that clip that I showed you before, that's left a vacancy that needs to be filled. And I know right now more than ever, Texas and Americans are looking for a fighter. I want to introduce y'all to someone who you may know from the early days of the MeidasTouch Network, someone who's running for Texas's 18th in that vacancy. His name is Isaiah Martin. He's got long-standing roots in Texas, went to University of Houston. It's where I met him. And now he's running for the seat in downtown Houston area. Isaiah, are you that fighter? Are you a fighter? Are you going to fight for Texas? Are you going to fight for the American people? Tell us.
Of course I am. First off, I just want to congratulate you. Number one podcast in America. It's because of the work that you guys have done. You guys have grown so big. And I can't just say enough about how much I'm proud of you guys for continuing to fight for this country. I'm absolutely going to be that fighter because I think that at this moment of time, people are looking for Democrats to lead and they're looking for us to be strong. I think that a lot of times you see folks that run for office for a lot of the wrong reasons. We don't have a lot of folks that are willing to fight. We saw unity in the House where members were fighting. I want to go and join that unity. I want to go be a part of that solution so we can go and fight for everyday Americans in this country because it's time. Because Donald Trump every single day is showing that he's more welcoming to people like Andrew Tate, people like that you just showed on that screen, than he is for a 10-year-old girl literally seeking help for brain cancer. Let that sink in. That's the state of America that we're in right now. That's not our values. And I'm going to Washington to make sure that we can stand up for what we are in this country.
You announced your candidacy on Monday for the 18th, and I know you've been flooded with calls. And even before then, you've just been out in the community speaking to people. What's going on? I know people are very fearful right now with all of these cuts, with Elon Musk and Trump breaking into their personal private data, gutting key programs, getting rid of Medicaid, calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme, firing veterans. Texas is getting hit hard. I mean, talk to us about your district. Texas in general, seems to be ground zero for a lot of these cuts and is getting hit pretty badly.
Certainly. I mean, I know, for example, cancer clusters are a really big deal in my district, in which you have entire streets in which you'll have streets where people get cancer because of the pollution that companies have done to our air, to our water. And the state of Texas has been doing nothing about it. State government's been doing nothing because a lot of these companies are one of the big contributors for these people. One of the first things that Trump did when he got into office was get rid of the Environmental Justice Office that was literally there to go and get information that we could use to hold those people accountable. President Biden was working on this. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee was working on that. And the second that Trump got into office, he got rid of that. So now so many people are going to be at risk because of these cuts that he made. It's going to make them sicker. It's going to cost them money because ultimately, when you get sick in this country, unfortunately, it's expensive. That's how it is because of the game that Donald Trump has set up. And what we have to do is to, number one, fight back against these things. We cannot go and be quiet. Now is the time to be loud. It's time to be unapologetic. The DOGE cuts are going to be hitting massive in my district because we have Bush Airport. That's the big international airport in the district, and the air traffic controllers, they're already telling me that they're worried about the big, massive cuts that are going to come their way. That's going to make you guys at home a lot less safe. We have a lot of connecting flights in Houston, and that's going to make us very less safe if you go on a way to cut these air traffic controllers as we see it as well. Also, the massive cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, all of these things. I've been on the phone talking to so many voters in this district, largely because we had a great and successful launch. We had 1 million people that were tuning in to see what we were doing here. And through that, I've heard the story of a grandmother that was worried about her Social Security, worried about whether or not she was going to be able to keep her home. I've heard the story of the veteran that's worried about the cuts to the VA. That's what's happening right now. And people need someone in DC that's going to fight for them, that's not worried about all of the cocktail parties and the gala stuff, but's more concerned about fighting for you instead of the few. And I'm going to be that person in Washington.
Talk to us. Are you going to be doing kind of these town hall events? Are we going to see you with, speaking to community members and just when I see these videos of Republicans and independents and people who are never political, before sharing their stories. I mean, it's so impactful. It's so impactful for me just watching people who are running for leadership positions, not just talking, but listening and just seeing, these interactions. Are we going to see that on the horizon?
Absolutely. I'm not somebody who's afraid, especially of these Republican folks. I spent a lot of time on TikTok. Matter of fact, going on TikTok lives and wish they were conservative lives, going up against 8v1 against a lot of these people and cooking them all. right? And that's because we have to be able to go into places, particularly with voters that might disagree with us, but go in there willing to answer their questions, right? Because it's important for us to go from a period of strength to go forward and talk to them. So if you want to go and figure out more about these events that we're going to be doing, go to isaiahmartin.org. We have a lot of information that we're going to be putting up there in the future, but that's where we're going to be posting a lot of that stuff, and also on social media. And I'll also be on TikTok as well. Some nights answering questions from the people in my district and people around. So I'm really excited about getting that out and getting into the district and talking to people directly. We've got to earn.
Look, Isaiah, I've known you since you were in college. We've known each other now for about 4 years. You would do videos in the early stages of Meidas. You know, you were working with us and making videos. So it's so incredible to see you running for Congress. This is a historic seat, a historic district. You know, our hearts go out to the family, of course, of Sylvester Turner, you know, who is representing that district admirably. And, you know, you got big shoes to fill. I think you know that. And, you know, and before that, Sheila Jackson Lee and others in that district. So big shoes to fill. And of course, Sylvester Turner, well-known mayor in the area. I mean, a legend in the area. Excited to see your campaign. We're going to follow it, and we're going to follow everything else that's going on in Texas. Tell that address one more time if people want to know where to find you.
Absolutely. It's isaiahmartin.org, ISAIAHMARTIN.org is where you can find me.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers, and thanks for watching.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.